always ready.
I apologise in advance because the poem it's probably going to take me about 30 minutes to read or something like that. 10 if I do it really fast. And I might, I'm a bit rusty in this one, so I might kind of forget towards the end and need the book. But hopefully if it gets to that point, then you'll probably be patient enough because you'll want to know what happens next in the story. So yeah, bear with me please. Just a quick background. Like the poem was written by a Leeds poet by the name of Tony Harrison in 1984. It was around the time that the miners' strike was going on, and it kind of takes in all sorts of themes. Mostly, the theme really that runs through it for me is the power of words to change us, to make us better, to make us more tolerant, better people. So it starts with a quote from Arthur Scargill, which says, "My father reads the dictionary every day. He says that your life depends on your power to master words." Next millennium, you'll have to search quite hard to find my slab behind the family dead. Butcher, publican and baker, and now me, bard, adding poetry to their beef, beer and bread. With Byron 3 graves on, I'll not go short of company, and Wordsworth's opposite, that's 2 peers already of assault. And we'll all be thrown together if the pit whose galleries once ran beneath this plot causes the distinguished dead to drop into the rabblement of bone and rot, shawed slack, crushed jail, smashed rock. Wordsworth built church organs. Byron tanned luggage cowhide in the age of steam and knew their place of rest before the land caves in on the lowest worked out seam. This graveyard, on the brink of Beeston Hills, the place I may well rest, if there's a spot, under the rose roots and the daffodils by which Dad dignified the family plot. If buried ashes saw, then I'd survey the places I learned Latin and learned Greek, and left the ground where Leeds United play, but disappoint their fans week after week, which makes them lose their sense of self-esteem. And taking a shortcut home through these graves here, they reassert the glory of their team by spraying words on tombstones, pissed on beer. This graveyard stands above a worked out pit. Subsidence makes the obelisks all list. One, leaning left's marked fuck. One right marked shit. Sprayed by some peeved supporter who was pissed. Far-sighted for his family's future dead, but for his wife, this banker's still alone on his long obelisk and doomed to head a blackened dynasty of unclaimed stone, now graffitied with a crude 4-letter word. His children and grandchildren went away and never came back home to be interred. So left a lot of space for skins to spray. The language of this graveyard ranges from a bit of Latin for a former mayor and those who laid their lives down with the song, the hymnal fragments, the gilded prayer, how people fell asleep in the good Lord, brief, chiselable bits from the good book, and rhymes, whatever length they could afford, to cunt, shit, piss, and mostly fuck. Or, more expansively, there's Leeds versus the opponent of last week, this week, or next, and a repertoire of blunt 4-letter curses on the team or race that makes the sprayer vexed. Then, pushed for time, or fleeing some observer, dodging between tall family vaults and trees like his team's best ever winger, dribbler, swerver, he fills up every space he finds with verses. These. Sprayed on the runners such a lick that the sprayer, master of his flourished tool, gets short-armed on the left Like that red tick, they never marked his work with much of school. Half this skinhead's age, but with approval, I helped whitewash his deeds on a brick wall. No one clamoured in the press for its removal, or thought the sign in wartime rude at all. These V's are all the verses of life, from Leeds versus Derby, black, white, and as I've known to my cost, man versus wife. Communist.
Sorry. I was trying to do it quick.
Communist v fascist, left v right, class versus class, as bitter as before, the unending violence of us and them, personified in 1984 by Colborne McGregor and the NUM. Hindu, Sikh, soul, body, heart v mind, east, west, male, female, and the ground. These fixtures are Forton's man, resigned to hope from his future what his past never found. The prospects for the present aren't too grand, when a swastika with NF, National Fronts, sprayed onto a grave to which another hand is added, in a reddish colour, cunts, which is, I grant, the word that springs to mind when going to clear the weeds and rubbish thrown on the family plot by football fans, I find United graffitied on my parents' stone. How many British graveyards now, this May, are strewn with rubbish and choked up with weeds now that family and friends have got away for work or fuller lives, like me from Leeds. When I first came here 30 years ago with my dad to see my grandma, I was 7. I helped Dad with the flowers, and he let me know that she'd gone to join my granddad up in heaven. My dad, who came each week to bring fresh flowers, came home with clay stains on his trouser knees. Since my parents' death, I've spent 2 hours, made up of odd 10 minutes such as these, flying visits once or twice a year. And though I'm horrified, just who's to blame that I find instead of flowers, cans of beer, and more than one grave sprayed with some skin's name. Where there were flower urns and troughs of water and mesh receptacles for withered flowers, or the harp tins of some skinhead Leeds supporter. It isn't all his fault. Much is ours. 5 boys with 1 in goal play 2 aside. When the ball bangs on the hawthorn that's one post and petals fall, they hum, "Here comes the bride," though not so loud they want to rouse a ghost. They boot the ball on purpose at the trunk and make the trees shed showers of shrivelled May. I look at this word, graffitied by some drunk, and I'm in half a mind to let it stay. Although honesty demands that I say if I'd wanted to take the necessary pains to scrub the skin's inscription off. I only had an hour between trains. And so the feelings that I had as I stood gazing, and the significance that I saw, could be a sham. Mere excuses for not patiently erasing the words sprayed on the grave of Dad and Mum. This pen's all I have a magic wand. I know this world so torn, but want no other, except for Dad, who'd hoped from the beyond a better life than this one, with my mother. Although I don't believe in afterlife at all, and I know it's cheating, it's hard not to make a sort of furtive prayer from this skin's scroll, to make his united mean in heaven, for their sake. An accident of meaning to redeem an act intended as mere desecration, and make the thoughtless spraying of his team apply to higher things, and to the nation. Some, where kids use aerosols, use giant signs to let the people know who's forged their fetters, like Price a Wales over West Yorkshire mines. No prizes for who nicked the missing letters. The big blue star for booze, tobacco ads, the magnet's monogram, the royal crest, insignia in neon dwarves the lads who spray a few odd fucks when they're depressed. Letters of transparent tubes and gas in Dusseldorf are blue and flash out Krupp. Arms are hoisted for the British ruling class, and clandestine, genteel aggro keeps them up. And then there's Harrison on some Leeds building site, which I've taken in fun as blazoning my name, which I've also seen on books and in Broadway lives. So why can't skins with spray cans do the same? But why inscribe these graves with cunt and shit? Why choose neglected tombstones to disfigure? This Pitmans of last century dubbed Packy Git. This grocer Broadbent aerosoled with nigger. They're there to shock the living, not arouse the dead from their deep peace. To lend support to the causes skinhead spray cans could espouse. The dead would want their desecrators caught. Jobless though they are, how can these kids, even though their teams lost one more game, believe that the packies, the niggers, and even the yids sprayed on the tombstones here should bear the blame? What is it that this aggro act implies? Giving the dead their xenophobic feeling, or just a cri de coeur because man dies? So, what's a cri de coeur, cunt? Can't you speak the language that your man spoke? Think of her! Can you only get your tongue round fucking Greek? Go and fuck yourself with cri de coeur. She didn't talk like you do for a start, I shouted, turning to where I thought the voice had been. She didn't understand your fucking art. She thought your fucking poetry obscene. I wish on this skin's words deep aspirations. First, the prayer to my parents that I can't make. And then a call to Britain and to all nations, made in the name of love, for peace's sake. Aspirations? Cunt! Folk on Dole have got about as much scope to aspire above the shit they're dumped in, cunt, as coal aspires to be chucked on fucking fire. Okay, forget aspirations. Look, I know United's losing gets your fans incensed, and how far the harp inside you makes you go, but all these V's, against. I'll tell you then, what really riles a bloke is reading on their graves jobs they did. Butcher, publican, baker. Me, I'll croak doing the same now I do now as a kid. Hard birth, that one, my mum says. Almost killed her. Death after life on door won't seem without. Look at this cunt. Wordsworth, organ builder, this fucking haberdasher, Appleyard. If my mum's up there, I don't want to meet her listening to me list me dirty deeds and have to pipe up to St fucking Peter. I've been on dole all my life in fucking Leeds. Then hallelujah's sticking angels, gods. When Dolwallers fuck off to the void, what'll Mason carve up for their jobs? The cunts that lieth here were unemployed. This lot worked at one job all life through. Byron, Tanner lieth here interred. They'll chisel fucking poet when they do you, and that you cunt's a crude four-letter word. Listen, cunt, I said. Before you start your jeering, the only reason why I want this in a book is to give ungrateful cunts like you a hearing. A book, you stupid cunt's not worth a fuck. The only reason why I write this poem at all on yobs like you who do the dirt on death is to give some higher meaning to your scrawl. Don't fucking bother, cunt. Don't waste your breath. You piss artist, skinhead cunt. You wouldn't know, and it doesn't fucking matter if you do. The poet and skin united, fucking Rambo, but the autre, the je aime, is you. told you. No more Greek. That's your last warning. I'll boot your fucking balls to kingdom come. They'll find you cold on grave tomorrow morning. Don't speak Greek. Don't treat me like I'm dumb. I've done my bits of mindless aggro too, you know. Not half a mile from where we're standing now. Yeah, I bet you're all a fucking poem, you wanky you. No, shut your gob a while and I'll tell you how. Herman Daruski's band played operetta with a wobbly soprano warbling. Just why I'd made up my mind that I had to get it with a fire hose, I can't say, but I'll try. It wasn't just the singing that angered me. At the same time, half a crowd were cheering as the smooth Hugh Gateskill, our MP, made promises, the other half were jeering. What I hated in those high soprano ranges was uplift, beyond all reason and control, and in a world where you say nothing changes, it seemed a sort of prick tease of the soul. I tell you, when I heard high notes that rose above Hugh Gateskill's cool electioneering, straight from the warbling throat, right up my nose, I had all your aggro in my jeering. And I hit the fire extinguisher on knob and covered orchestra and audience with spray. I could run as fast as you then. Good job. They yelled, "Damn vandal!" after me that day. Yeah, then you saw the light and gave up heavy and knew a man's not how much he can sup. Well, your reward for growing up's this super bevy, a meths and champagne punch in FA Cup. I've heard all that from old farts past the prime. How now you live with all you once detested? Old farts with not much left will give me time. Fuckers like that get folk like me arrested. Covet not thy neighbour's wife, thy neighbour's riches. Vicar and cop who say, to save our souls, get thee behind me, Satan. Drop their breeches and get the devil's dick right up their alls. It was more a working marriage that I meant, you know, a blend of masculine and feminine. Ignoring me, he started looking, bent on some more aerosoling for his tin. It was more a working marriage that I mean. Fucking save me soul, eh? That suits me. And then, as if I'd egged him on to be obscene, he added a middle slit to one dog V. Don't talk to me of fucking representing the class you were born into anymore. You're going to get hurt and start resenting. It's not poetry we need in this class war. You've given yourself toffee, cunt. Who needs your fucking puffy words? I write my own. I've got my work on show all over Leeds, like this United here, on some sod stone. Okay, thinking I had him trapped. Okay, if you're so proud, then sign your name. When next you're full of harp and armed with spray. Next time you take this shortcut from the game. He took the can, contemptuous and unhurried, and cleared the nozzle and prepared to sign the United sprayed where Mum and Dad were buried. He aerosoled his name, and it was mine. The boy footballers fall, Here Comes the Bride, and drifting blossoms fall onto my head. One half of me's alive, but the other half died when the skin half sprayed my name among the dead. Half versus half, the enemy within, the heart that can't be whole until they unite. As I stoop to grab the crushed half lager tins, the day is already dusk, half dark, half light. That united that I'd wished onto the nation, or as reunion for dead parents soon receives. The words once more a mindless desecration by some harpaholic yob supporting Leeds. Almost the time for ghosts, I'd better scram. Although not much given to fears of spooky scaring, I don't fancy an encounter with me mam playing Hamlet with me for this swearing. Though I've a train to catch, my step is slow. I walk over the grass and graves with weary tread, over these subsidences, these shifts below the life of Leeds, supported by the dead. Further underneath is that cavernous hollow that makes the gravestones lean towards the town. A matter of mere time and it will swallow this place of rest, and all the rest of us down. I tell myself I've got, say, 30 years. At 75, this place will suit me fine. I've never feared the grave. No, what I fear is that great, worked-out black hollow under mine. Not train departure time, and not town hall with the great white clock face I can see. The coal that began with no man here at all as 300 million year old plant debris. 5 kids still play at making blossoms fall, and humming as they do, "Here comes the bride." They never seem to tire of their ball, although I hear a woman's voice call one inside. 2 larking boys play bawdy bride and groom. 3 lads in lead strips play La La Lohengrin. I hear them as I go through growing gloom, still years away from being scald or skin. The ground's carpeted with petals as I throw the aerosol, the heart tins, the cleared weeds, on top of Dad's dead daffodils, and then go, with not one glance behind, away from Leeds. The bus to the station's still the number 1, but goes by routes that I don't recognise. I look out for known landmarks as the sun reddens the swabs of cloud in darkening skies. Home. Home. Home to my woman as the red blood dries. Home. Home to my woman. Home to bed, where opposites seem sometimes unified. A pensioner in turban taps his stick along the pavement past the corner shop that sells samosas now, not beer, on tick, to the Kashmir Muslim club that was the co-op. House after house for sale, where we played cricket with white roses cut from flour sacks in our caps, with stumps chalked onto the coal grate as our wickets, and every house bought now by coloured chaps, Dad's most liberal label, as he felt squeezed by the unfamiliar and fear of foreign food and faces when he smelled curry in the shop where he bought beer. And growing frailer, wobbly on his pins, the shops he felt familiar with withdrew, which meant much longer tiring treks for tins that had a label on them that he knew. And as the shops that stocked his favourites receded, whereas he'd bought baked beans and pop next door, it turned out that 4 long treks a week were needed, until he wondered why he bothered eating 4. The supermarkets made him feel embarrassed. Where people bought whole lambs for family freezers, he bought baked beans from checkout girls, too harassed to smile or swap a joke with sad old geezers. But when he bought his cigs, he'd have a chat. His week's one conversation, truth to tell. But time also came and put a stop to that when old Watsy got bought out by M. Patel. And there, time like an ever-rolling stream's what I once trilled behind those boarded fronts. 1,000 ages made coal-bearing seams, and even more the hand that sprayed this cunt on both Methodist and C of E billboards, once united in their fight for local souls. Whichever house more truly was the Lord's, both pews are filled with cut-price toilet rolls. Home. Home to my woman, never to return, till sexton or survivor has to scoop the clinker from my urn down through the rose roots to my dad and mam. Home. Home to my woman where the fire's lit. Home to you, these still, chilly, mid-May evenings, and perished vegetation escaping insubstantial up the flue. Listening to Lulu in our hearth we burn as we listen to the high seas rise in stereo. What was lush swamp club moss and tree fern at least 300 million years ago. Shillbottle cobbles, Aldenburg High D, lifted from a source that bears your name, the one we hear decay, the one we see, the fern from the fetid forest as a brief flame. This world, with far too many people in it, starts on the TV logo as a tour, then ping pong, tennis, football, then one spin to show us all, then shots of the Gulf War. As the coal with reddish dust cools in the grate, on the late night national news we see police versus pickets at a coke plant gate, old violence, old disunity. The map that's colour-coded Ulster era flashes on again as almost every night, behind a tiny coffin with two bearers, men with arms show off their might. The day's last images recede, to first a glow and then a ball that shrinks back to blank screen. Turning to love and sleep's oblivion, I know what the united that the skin spray has to mean. Hanging up my clothes from my parquet hood, may and apple petals, browned and creased, fall onto the carpet and release the flood of feeling that their first falling had released. I hear like ghosts from all the Leeds matches, humming with one concerted voice, the bride, I feel united to. My bride is coming into the bedroom, naked, to my side. The ones we choose to love become our anchor. When the hawser of the blood ties hacked or phrase, or the voice that scorns corrals is yelling, "Wanker!" It's the aerosoling skin I met today's. My alter ego wouldn't want to know it. His aerosol vocab would balk at love. The skins united underwrites the poet. The measures carved below the ones above. I doubt if 30 years of bleak Leeds weather and 30 falls of apple and of May could have ruined the united binding us together. And now it's your decision. Does it stay? Next millennium, you'll have to search quite hard to find out where I'm buried, but I'm near the grave of Haberdasher Appleyard, the pile of harps or some new neon beer. Turn left between one grave, Mark Richardson. Bring with you some kind of solution that can clean any new crude words that have been sprayed on. If love of art or love gives you a front that the grave I'm in's graffitied, then maybe erase the more offensive fuck and cunt, but leave, with the worn united, one small V. Victory? For vast, slow, coal-creating forces that hew the body seams to get the soul. Will Earth run out of her diurnal courses before repeating her creation of black coal? But choose a day like I chose in mid-May, or earlier when apple and hawthorn tree, no matter if boys boot their ball all day, cling to their blossoms and won't shake them free. If, having come this far and somebody reads these verses and he, she wants to understand, face this grave, your back to Beeston Hill, and read the chiselled epitaph I planned. Beneath your feet's a poet and then a pit. Poetry supporter, if you're here to find out how poems can grow from beat you to it, shit. Find the beef, the beer, and the bread, and then look behind.
Any questions?